Welcome. Come on in. It's Thursday and it's happy hour. Home happy hour to be exact. So grab a drink and let's get started. Hi everybody, it's Claire Paris with Paris Group Realty, LLC in Portland, Oregon. And today we're talking about what systems does a home inspector inspect when they're in your house. So typically the home inspector is going to start on the exterior. They're going to look at all the major systems and all the minor systems in your home, but they're only going to look at what they can see with the naked eye. They're not going to tear into your walls. They're not going to, well, some of them actually have infrared cameras, but they're not going to do anything invasive where they can actually damage your property. So they crawl in the attic. They're looking for insulation. They're looking for, in an old house, they're looking to see if there's any knob and tube covered by insulation. They're looking at the sheathing, which is the part underneath your roof that with all of the moisture that happens in a house can sometimes have mold on it. They're looking at the age of your roof, which is kind of cool because you can look at the back of the shingles and sometimes it'll have the date on it from when that shingle was produced, and that'll give them an idea of how old the roof is. They're going to look at all the siding, which is the stuff that covers the exterior of your home and protects it from rain. So is there any rot in it? Does it need to be painted or caulked? What is it made of? They're going to give all this information to the buyer because the buyer wants to know, what do I have to do to maintain it? How long does it last? And what kind of concerns should I be looking for? So we're now on two systems, right? Roof, insulation, and siding. Once you go into the house, you're looking at the windows and the doors and seeing if they open and close, if they work properly. Are they single pane? Are they double pane? How likely is it that you're going to have lots of air movement in and out? Because that's going to translate for the buyer to increased utility costs. As you move through the house, they're going to look at the condition of all of the fixtures. So things that are attached to the home, you know, the flooring, the paint, any of the attic or the hood, all of the stuff that you look at in a house that is just normal, everyday things that you see in a house, the staircase, they're going to be looking for life and safety issues. So that would be handrails. If I'm falling, can I grab myself as I'm falling down the stairs? Is there a roof? Is there heat that's going to keep me warm? They also look at electrical outlets if there's going to be a problem with safety as far as those are concerned. They're looking at all of those pieces, and not all of it is bad. A lot of it is just, hey, the buyer doesn't know what any of this is. Help me understand what this is. They're going to talk about shutoffs. Where's the water shut off? Where's the gas shut off? How do I get to it? How do I shut it off? So back to systems. All right, what else do we have? We talked about doors and windows, siding, roof, plumbing. So plumbing, there's two systems with your entire plumbing system. One brings the water to you, one takes the dirty water away. So that whole system is typically in your house, in your crawl space, in your walls. Obviously, when it's in your walls, you can't really tell if it's leaking, but if it is leaking, typically you're going to see it somewhere else in the house. In the plumbing systems that bring water to your house, there's the cold lines and the hot lines. And those are two totally separate systems. So they're going to look at those pipes and make sure that they're in good working order, that they're not leaking, and they're going to tell them what the useful life of those things are. The things that take away the plumbing is typically going to be all kinds of weird stuff. You can have ABS, you can have concrete pipes, you can have cast iron, you can have terracotta. I mean, the list goes on, but each one of those has a useful life and might be at the end of its useful life. And so the buyers are going to take all that information and assess it and see what's most important and what's most concerning to them. They're going to test all the appliances. So they're going to run your washer dryer, your oven. They're going to open your fridge and test the temperature in it. They're going to test the temperature of your water. So they're going to run your hot water a lot to see if it runs out after a few minutes or if it continues to produce hot water. And then what else? I think that actually is the gist of it. They're going to crawl in the crawl space, and they're also going to look for leaks. They're also going to look for insulation again, and they're also going to check for a vapor barrier because dirt has moisture in it, and as it heats up and cools down, moisture comes out of it, and moisture, of course, is not good for houses. That's kind of the overview of the general home inspection. They're going to be looking at all those things, and they go from top to bottom. And then as they do that, they're going to find holistic issues and then minor issues. So for instance, something that's very common is you might have an area of your crawl space that is not covered with a vapor barrier, which really is just some plastic film against the dirt. Why that's important is as the moisture evaporates in your home, it continues to evaporate because it goes up as it evaporates, and your internal space is warmer, so heat rises. It rises all the way up to your roof surface, and then it turns back into water because it's cold typically up there in your roof, and then it will have water deposit on the interior of your roof and turn into mold. It'll feed mold. So those are kind of things that you don't actually see until they inspect the entire house, and they'll find big system problems like that. And that affects multiple different areas of the home. So those are more complicated to fix as opposed to just a little outlet that's broken. So there's a lot to kind of process when you look at these reports. And of course, as we do that together, I will be helping you understand what's a big issue, what's a small issue, and what those costs will be. Another additional system is HVAC. People are always like, what the heck does that stand for? Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Every house isn't going to have everything. So you could have just an electrical wall heater. That's not a ventilation system. It's just a source of heat that blows from a fan into your house. A normal heating system like you would think of would be a furnace. It burns some sort of fuel typically, and then has a blower on it that blows the hot air throughout your house. Air conditioning, if you're lucky enough to have air conditioning in Portland, that can be attached to a typical furnace. It cannot be attached to those electrical wall heaters, so that's a big problem. There's also a mini split, which are those kind of big square things that you see on people's walls. They work as both heating and air conditioning. And then the other crazy system that you don't see much of in Portland, but you see often on really old houses and really expensive old houses, are radiators. So that is an entire system that's completely captured. It doesn't actually circulate any air. It just circulates hot water through a closed system, and that hot water radiates heat into the room. They're really cool, but sometimes they're super old. I saw one the other day that literally looked like it was a train from 1920. So depends. But again, you cannot hook an air conditioning system to that because there's no air being blown around. And then of course in new construction, they still do use radiant heat. And that's typically what you see often in your bathroom floor because it's tile and typically it's cold and they want to make it nice and warm for your toes in the morning. Those are typically still a plumbed system with plumbing underneath the floor, and those can be problematic because if a line bursts or anything like that, you've got water trapped between your tile floor and your ceiling of your downstairs. And of course, they also can't be used for air conditioning, but typically that's a secondary system that you just have in certain spots like your bathroom, and then you'd have a forced air gas furnace in addition to that. As always, it's so nice to have you tune in to our home happy hour. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Cheers.